Okay. Good morning and welcome to the May 15th, 2025 Lower Merion School District Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting. This meeting is being recorded. We will be going through our agenda, and if you have questions, please raise your hands, and one hand is good enough to raise. You can ask your question following the board members asking their questions. And then please state your name and where you live in the district when you ask a question. And so let's move to the first agenda item, which is the list of bills with Mr. Orlando. Do any board members have any questions?
So, Ms. Schaffmeister, before we get started, I'm sorry, Ms. Garrison, I just had a comment that I wanted to make. I know Sure. There's been a question from the community to break out the Visa bill and maybe the Amazon bill. I worked with Vic Orlando over the past week to look at that, and there are hundreds of items on that list that don't make sense to me, which would require they make sense to me in the grand scheme of things, but just the name of the vendor or whatever it may be would lead to a ton of research more to understand what that was for and how that was tied to. So we tried to categorize them in more groups as well, but they look very similar to what we have on the list, so we left it like that. So I just wanted to let everybody know that.
Okay. So just to clarify, when you say that it does, when you're meaning it wouldn't make sense to the public
Correct.
Community, yeah.
Yeah, correct. So it would be like lodging for a trip for kids or things like that, but it would just be that, right? And if there's a parent company that you like, sometimes I'll go to Wawa and charge it, and it hits a company in Minnesota because that's their parent company. It just doesn't make a lot of sense as just the list of vendors that we hit. So we categorized it in groups of what they're for. So I just wanted to make that.
And did we look at any other communities and how they do it?
So Vic, we had that discussion, and we said this is more than a lot of other communities even offer on their reports. Vic, you want to corroborate that just to make sure I'm saying the right thing there?
Yeah, we did look at a few districts, and basically they have just like one line, a credit card and a dollar amount.
Okay.
We provide details of different transactions, other districts that we just saw online. Mr. Stofier and I look, it's just a one-line item.
Okay, well, I appreciate your follow up on this. Do any of the other board members have any questions on this before we move?
I have one question, just out of curiosity. If you were to actually do what the community member wanted and break out all of these itemized costs, how many man hours would that take?
I don't honestly, it would take a few hours a month because everything can be done manually. You have to go in, research it, go to the system, merge files, manually input. So I would think probably a few hours. And be very honest, like I did before, my accounts payable staff is already overwhelmed just to get it right. Now you're talking overtime for them to come in and do this report.
Yeah, not to mention, Ms. Garrison, I appreciate the question. The follow-up questions for what does this mean I'd probably need another staff member, because again, there's hundreds of items on this list. And if somebody doesn't understand something, you're going to say, call the business office and say, what is this? And what is this? And what does this mean? And the follow-up of that would be really, really cumbersome and very time consuming. So I appreciate that question.
Thank you. I appreciate your answer.
Okay, great. Thank you both, or thank you, everyone. Is there wondering, are we okay to move to just if there's any questions on the list of bills? Do I take no board members have any questions?
I don't have any, but there's a public question.
Yeah, I did. I was going to follow that. And okay, thank you.
Great,
okay. Hi, Zandra O'Neill.
Hi, I'm Zandra O'Neill. I live in Wynwood. And I appreciate Kimberly for raising that. And I'm just curious, I understand and I completely agree you would be inundated with questions about, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? I'm curious to know if you have any other ideas or suggestions that wouldn't require another staff member, for example, but that would give a little bit more transparency to the community in terms of the things that are being spent.
I mean, I could offer that, Mr. Orlando and I could really get our heads together, but I am not sure what more you're looking for aside from, and I'm looking at the screen right now, athletics travel or athletics general supply or human resources for, I'm not sure where the lack of transparency rests, that the lack of trust that we're not spending money correctly. So if I could get a little more lightened on that, maybe I could help you all with that, with things. So, Ms. O'Neill, if you have a response to that, I'll be more than happy to hear it. I want to make sure you have everything, but I also want to make sure that the people here can have the time to do the work that they need to do.
I appreciate that. I know, I mean, some number of years ago, I was in a facility of purchasing meeting, and I asked because I had scrolled through the list of bills and there was something, it was like a $40,000 line item.
Right.
And I said, I'm just kind of curious what that
Sure.
is. And the response I got at the time, and this person is no longer on the board even, but the response I got at the time was, that's an expense that the board has previously approved and we know what it is. And
Yeah, so we don't want to do that. That's really disrespectful. So if there's, I'll give you this suggestion, and I spoke to Mr. Orlando because we anticipated a question like this. If there's a question that someone has that's about a specific line item and not the entire thing, they could give the board office an email, and we'll be able to set something up where they can come in and check something out.
great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your question. Okay, so are we good to move the list of bills forward?
Yes.
Yes, I'm good.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next is the purchasing report.
Good morning, Ms. Schaffmeister.
Good morning.
Thank you. And what I'm going to ask, if I could, Mr. Pitts from the operations department is connected. He is prepared to review items 1 through, I believe, 11, 1 through 11 on the report. And then Mr. Orlando can address number 12. That's okay with you.
Okay, with your permission, I will just run through the 11 items. I'm making an overall general statement. Most of these, except for the ones I will note, are for school year 25-26. We're asking the board permission to move these to requisitions so that we can coordinate with our partners for the tight summer window to get a lot of these things done, or to continue services for the next fiscal year. And I'll just read through them, be happy to go back and answer questions. Item 1, gym floor refinishing. It is recommended the pricing from Chambers Flooring LLC for their gym floor refinishing under CoStar 008 E22755 for school year 25-26 be approved in the amount of $41,395. Item 2 is annual sprinkler and fire pump inspections. It is recommended the pricing from Kistler O'Brien Fire Protection, Encore Holdings LLC, for sprinkler and fire pump inspections under PE Marketplace DGS, contract 4400031423 for school year 25-26 be approved in the amount of $20,336.64. Item 3, kitchen hood services and fire extinguisher inspection. It is recommended the pricing from Kistler O'Brien Fire Protection, Encore Holdings LLC, for kitchen hood services and fire extinguisher inspections under PAE Marketplace DGS, contract 440031432. For school year 25-26 be approved in the amount of $21,595.92. Item 4, alarm monitoring. It is recommended the pricing from Johnson Controls Fire Protection LP for alarm services monitoring under PAE Marketplace DGS contract 44000239962 for school year 25-26 be approved in the amount of $10,710. Item 5, installation and integration of Andover controls at Welsh Valley Middle School. There's a typo on the report. I will correct that. It is recommended the pricing from Tri-M, a proprietary service provider for installation and integration of Andover controls at Welsh Valley Middle School for school year 25-26 be approved in the amount of $101,100. Item 6, elevator maintenance services. It is recommended the pricing from Tri-State Elevator Company for monthly elevator inspection for school year 25-26 be approved in the amount of $10,392. Item 7, hydronic loop treatment services. This is for Lower Merion High School, Harrison High School, and Black Rock Middle School. It is recommended the pricing from Proasis, hydronic loop water treatment services under PAE Marketplace DGS contract 4400019228 for school year 25-26 be approved in the amount of $16,860. Item 8, maintenance and scheduling software. This is it's called Brightly now, but it was School Dude. It is recommended the pricing from Brightly, a proprietary vendor for maintenance and scheduling software for school year 25-26 be approved in the amount of $16,290.80. Item 9, gym equipment and bleacher inspections at the secondary schools. It is recommended the pricing from Degler Whiting for gym equipment and bleacher inspections under CoStar's contract 014E23309 for school year 25-26 be approved in the amount of $27,142. Chiller components for Penn Valley Elementary School. It is recommended the quote from FW Web Company for the purchase of chiller components for the Penn Valley Elementary School under CoStar's contract 008E22798 be approved in the amount of $126,197. And this next item is not for school year 25-26 necessarily. It will be capital funding instead of general fund. We're ordering an auditorium rooftop air handler from Marion Elementary School. It is recommended the quote from FW Web Company for the purchase and installation of rooftop air handler for the Marion Elementary School under CoStar 008E22798 be approved in the amount of $437,707. And we have to go back and answer questions, but I will defer to Mr. Orlando for item 12.
This is our annual fuels bid that we have through MCIU. We're part of the consortium, and you can see the pricing. It's $1.96, I guess $1.9611 for gasoline and $2.25, I guess 2.22525 per gallon for biodiesel. For the upcoming school year, just in perspective, this year we're paying about $2.33 for gasoline and about $2.75 for diesel. So we were able to secure better pricing for the upcoming school year based upon market conditions.
Okay, thank you both for your presentations. Questions from the board?
I have two questions. One, both for Mr. Pitts. One, I was just looking at number 1, and Harridan is not on that list. Does Harridan not need their gym floors refinished?
That is a very good catch. Harridan is being done in this fiscal year. Those POs have already been cut. The reason that we took Harridan out and moved it into the couple of days after the end of the school year is so that we can support the township in their programs that we are temporarily housing just for this summer while they do renovations to their facilities. But that's a good catch. Harridan will also be done. It's just being done this fiscal year.
Okay, great. Because I just, when we have 10 schools and not 11, I was just wanting to double check. The other is with number 5. Could you just explain what Andover controls are? I know I have seen them on agendas before, and I just can't remember what an Andover controls.
So we have 3 different building automation systems. At the 2 high schools, we have Johnson Controls. At 5 of our buildings and the transportation facility, we have Siemens. Andover Controls is the other building automation system, and we have been in a program of upgrading these, I think now for 4 years.
Right.
Welsh Valley will be the second to last one. We still need to do an upgrade at the DAO, but this is just the next step in these programs basically sunsetting and being replaced with newer versions.
Okay, and when we say building controls, is that like
HVAC.
HVAC? Is that like door access? Is it like temperature? What are we looking at for what this controls?
So the building automation systems are for the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, those controls. In some systems, not this one for Welsh Valley, the building automation systems also can control lighting. The security systems and access control are completely different than the building automation systems. So it's
Interesting.
HVAC.
And it makes it a much more expensive system, I'd imagine, if we add that lighting control in there.
So some of the buildings were renovated or constructed to include lighting controls, but not all of them. So some of the lighting control, some are mechanical timers, but some were tied into the building automation system. If they're tied into the building automation system, it is a little bit easier to schedule and make times as opposed to physically going to a device to set some pins for timing. But that was just purely a factor of what was done at the time of renovation or construction.
So did we consider doing the one that had the automated lighting system included in this, or would that have been a much more?
So there's for the high schools is a separate control system, Lutron or Cilium, which are also starting to age out.
Smiling because I have a Lutron automated system in my house, so I know exactly how those work.
Right. So Andover does not do a lot with lighting controls.
Okay.
But when they were selected for those buildings, the lighting controls were either a separate system or mechanical timers.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay.
Annie raised hands.
Yeah. I actually have one question. I'm curious about the water system that's at the three schools. What exactly is that doing?
So at the high schools and at Blackrock, we've had newer systems. And when we put those in, we put in chemical controls to cut down on oxidation of the piping, better flow, treatment of the two outside towers for Legionella. So in the newer buildings, we've gone into a system of using treatments to extend the life and improve the performance of those. We have not gone back to do chemical treatments on the other schools because when you add in chemical treatments later, sometimes you get a lot of scaling and cause a lot of maintenance problems. But if you are treating a system from the beginning, you get better performance. And in the case of the outside cooling towers, we have to treat those because there is untreated cooling tower water is a Legionella risk.
Okay. So is this in like which loop of water are we talking about? Are we talking
So it's not domestic water. This is purely a hydronic system basically transmits the heating and cooling.
Oh, it's a heating and
through
cooling.
water.
Okay, great. I just wanted to figure out where it was, what system. Yeah.
Right. So all of our buildings have hydronic loops for heating. Most of our buildings that have centralized cooling, those are also hydronic loops. They have nothing to do with the domestic water system. It's basically just the medium for transferring either the BTUs for heat or the cold water for cooling through the systems.
Okay, great. And given that Harriton and Lower Merion were built a while ago, are we seeing an improvement using these systems with it?
We've had that since the beginning.
Okay.
And Mr. Admeister, it is important to notice, as Mr. Pitts did, we're not adding chemical to drinking water. This is
Yeah.
water that is never leaves the pipes, if you will.
Yes, that's what I was like, like what chemical. Appreciate that and you're following up on that. Okay, are we good to move the purchasing report forward?
Yes, I
Yes.
am.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving to district contracts. Now, I understand the district contracts were all approved at the meeting. Now, if I understand, the first 9 are for curriculum, and then the rest are for I forgot the area it's from. Oh, there's more than
Student services, but
student
it's
services. Thank you. Thank you. Are there, now these were all approved at the, discussed and approved at the curriculum meeting. Is there anything that should be highlighted? I will ask you, Mr. Weinstein or Ms. Frazier.
Sure. Thank you. These were presented and approved at the CCOB meeting on Monday evening. The one highlighted one was the new science curriculum, and that was presented in full by our science supervisor. And, Katie Davenport did a wonderful job presenting that pilot, and that was moved forward to the board meeting on Monday evening.
Okay, thank you.
and student services contracts are not discussed in curriculum committee.
Oh,
So
okay.
I
So,
can do a quick overview of those ones now, if you'd like.
sure. Yes, please.
Great. So we have for renewal, these are actually all renewal contracts. So the board and public have seen these before. We have Abington Speech. We utilize Abington Speech for contracted speech therapists. So our speech therapists are part of our staff. Sometimes, however, we have trouble filling those, especially if we have like a long-term sub position for maternity leaves. We have trouble sometimes filling because they're skilled areas. So we utilize Abington to be able to help support in that event. They can provide, additional resources related to speech therapy. There's no increase in the rate that's provided for this. The only thing that's different is they did add in a rate for a bilingual speech therapist if we would happen to need that. We haven't needed that in the past, but it is something that they added in. Another contract, Ostels, also for related services. All of our physical therapists and our occupational therapists are contracted services. Ostels is our primary provider. This allows for direct services per student's IEPs. So it's dependent upon each individual student's needs. This is a 2-year contract that we're proposing. The average rate historically for Ostels when we've renewed, they've done a 3.5% increase. This time for OT, it's only a 1.7% increase. It's just in recognition of our ongoing partnership with Ostels. There is a more significant increase in physical therapy, but that is because of market demand. We've seen the same thing happen across the board. There just is supply and demand issues with physical therapists. And then GHR is a company that we contract with. Again, this is a renewal contract. These are required nursing services. And so what we do is use this to supplement the work that our nurses and staff nurses provide. It's additional nursing coverage if we're short-staffed. As we've talked about before, we are historically short-staffed, especially in the area of our staff nurses. We're usually 4 to 6 lower than what we have within our overall staffing allotment. It allows us to provide supports, extracurricular activities, our community-based instruction for our special education students at the secondary level, critical experiences, clubs, all those required services. There is no increase in the hourly costs for this renewal contract. And then MCIU, Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, is our local intermediate unit that provides supports and services to the districts in Montgomery County. It's our intergovernmental agreement. It's really based on anticipated student needs. And so it will fluctuate a little bit, again, because every individual student's needs might change. But this includes like direct services such as vision therapy, hearing therapy, orientation and mobility. It also includes our board certified behavior analysts for special education. There's some specialized evaluations included within this. So if we needed like an auditory processing evaluation or an orientation and mobility evaluation, those are like highly specialized evals that require specialists. So we do that that through the intermediate unit. And then included within that is also some tuition for our students who might be placed in intermediate unit placements through their IEP team. And then TLC, this is the Lincoln Center. This again is a renewal contract. This provides for 2 wellness counselors one at each of our high schools. These are master's level school counselors that provide additional support. We've been providing this service and utilizing TLC since 2017. So we have a longstanding partnership with them. This is the first increase. There is a slight increase this year. It's a 2.3% increase. Going from 85,000 per counselor to 87,000 per counselor, but it's the first increase for the past 2 contracts. So it is again in line with what we see within the market.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Shane and Kimberly don't have anything. I had a quick question.
I had one. Just sorry, Ms. Frazier, if we have these wellness counselors as full-time employees, yes?
They are with us full-time. They are not employees. They are contractors.
Right.
This contract.
Right. So my question was, it's the reason they're contractors is because it would be much more expensive for the district to hire them directly as district employees?
Yeah, so they perform a slightly different role. They're focused on wellness activities. They don't just come in and do the exact same thing that our school counselors do. So there's a distinction there. And yes, they would be more expensive. It would be more expensive to have an additional counselor.
Okay, thank you.
Jason, you had a question?
Yes, just following up, that was actually part of my question. The second piece of that is do we get the same counselors every year so that there's consistency among the children, or is it change every year?
It's like all staffing, right? It depends. It depends. Sometimes we've had people in those positions for multiple years in a row. We work really closely with TLC. If the individual is doing a good job and wants to stay with us, they continue with us. But then there's sometimes like natural turnover that we also see within our own union staff. So it's just similar to that, Jason.
And is there any advantage to having them as, I know it's more expensive, but having them as full-time employees, or is the skill set too difficult to find someone that would fit that need?
No, I wouldn't say it's like a difficult in terms of skill set. There are master's level school counselors. That's their background. But they do more general wellness activities and kind of whole school, all student supports that are different than the role of the school counselor.
And then with regard to the Abington, are those positions that we try to fill internally in the sense of hiring first and then we outsource if we can't find them?
That's exactly what we do. So sometimes for some of those highly skilled areas, we might post 2 or 3 times and not be able to find highly qualified individuals. And there's on our end like a time sensitivity because students need services. And so we're always trying to balance making sure that we have highly qualified, therapists in front of our students. But yes, we do. For the long-term sub positions, we do always post those first.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kimberly, any question?
Yes, I'm just curious how much more it would cost to hire the person to be full-time staff. What's the difference in the fees?
I'm going to defer to Vic on that because you're talking, Kimberly, about the counselor.
Correct.
And what is in the collective bar agreement and what their level, I don't know what degrees they have and so forth and experience. So that will come into play. Then you have all the benefits, retirement, Social Security, all the medical, which is tens of thousands of dollars. So I think it would be substantially higher than the $187,000 to get that. So we would never probably get maybe one counselor or so, depending upon where they're at, experience and education-wise on the scale.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I just had a question about the MCIU agreement. You had, is that dollar amount a cap, or is that you had made a statement, and I just wanted to clarify that.
That's great. It's our anticipated amount that we're going to utilize through MCIU. There's always like cost reconciliation based on the actual services that are needed. And again, because it's individualized to student needs, that fluctuates throughout the year.
Yeah, and I'm assuming it's based upon the bargaining agreement between the price we pay their MCIU employees, so it's based upon their bargaining agreement for the amounts paid, right?
Correct. And then so what this does is it allows us to know what the rates are that they're charging for the services so
Mhm.
that those rates don't fluctuate. It's just the amount that you utilize them will based on student need.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So from the board, are we okay to move the district contracts forward?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Shana, Jason, do you have just thumbs up if you just want?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. So moving on to the next one. I missed it. It came in a flash and I missed it.
This is the rated school agreement.
Oh, the right at school agreement. Okay, thank you.
For the child care services. Mrs. Schaefer shared too for any more specific questions. But basically what this is a 1-year agreement to rent our facilities for the child care that rated school provides to families for the upcoming school year. There's an option for to renew for additional 2 years, but the total fee is $215,000. And basically what it includes use of facilities for the summer camp program, before and after school care during the school year, care on all non-school days. However, no use of facilities will be permitted when the district administrator are closed. So basically when the district is totally closed, for example, New Year's Day, Memorial Day, MLK Day, there'll be no services provided for that. So this is $215,000. So to put in perspective, they're paying approximately about $90,000 this year. So we were able to negotiate a higher lease fee for the upcoming school year for rated school.
Thank you, Mr. Orlando. Any questions?
Does this include all the building rentals also? So like for each individual school, so for like after school programs and things?
That's correct.
Okay, great. And good job negotiating more than double your fee.
Jason, you had a question?
No, I appreciate the comparison to last year, and I appreciate the explanation. No questions for me. Thank you.
Okay, I don't have any questions, Kimberly, or if you
No, I don't have any questions, but thank you, Mel.
thanks. So are we good to move this forward then?
Yes.
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 Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so next is frontline ASOP absence and substitute manager.
Yep. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is our attendance management program. We call it ASOP. It's a frontline product. The district has several frontline products in various departments. This is a renewal. We're just at the end of a 3-year agreement, and so we've negotiated a 2-year agreement for next year and the following year.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
No, thank you.
Nice. Okay, are we good to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. And I just said, is this your last meeting with us?
It will be my last facilities meeting probably.
Okay. Well, congratulations on your new appointment and best of luck for him.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks. Okay.
Staff Meister. So I'll just give a brief overview of the next 2 items. These are part of the collective bargaining agreement. The first one, and Mr. Dempkin's here for specifics, but the first one is our disability policy renewal. Under collective bargaining agreement, we'll required to provide a disability plan. The vast majority is paid through employee withholding. So employers are paying for this service. This fee is slightly less than what it was from the current contract. So that's a good thing. And I'll just move on to the other ones that are kind of interrelated. The life insurance policy, again, is something required in the collective bargaining agreement. And those rates are basically the same that we're currently paying right now. And Mr. Dempkin is here for more specifics, questions. There are 3-year agreements that we have.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. So just to clarify, this is the stuff that we like anywhere you work, you have these options on your payroll, your pay, and that you can opt for.
We had to provide it for the collective.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
No, thank you.
Not for me.
No, thank you.
Okay, are we good to move these both forward?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next one, Netflix auditor.
Good morning.
Good
Yes.
morning, Mr. Catalano.
Good morning. This is the first of two items I have this morning. The first one is Netrix. It's a auditor that provides us visibility for any changes made to our most critical IT systems. This is a cybersecurity software that we're using so we can detect any security threats in real time and prevent any real damage. This is a 1-year renewal. It's the exact same price that we paid last year, the $29,704.76.
Do you want to do both, or are they different enough that it's better to ask questions?
The other one is a communication tool and also a renewal, our PowerSchool Messenger. This is how, excuse me. This is the mass notification system used by the district to communicate with parents, guardians, and staff. It allows for bulk sending of phone calls, emails, and text messages. It's a 1-year renewal, and it is slightly less than we paid last year. It's approximately $2,000 less. Total is $16,555.19.
Thank you. Any questions from the board on either of the two items?
No, thank you.
No.
I'm good.
Okay. So are we good to move the both of them forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now it's Advanced Company Protection Security Services. Mr. Pitts.
Good morning. This is a renewal of the ABC guards that we have at our buildings, our school buildings in the DAO. This is the same basic contract as we had last year. We didn't negotiate with APC to ask them to hold their rates, which they did this year. So this is pretty much, with the exception of incorporating the guard that we had previously deducted and then added back in last September. This is an identical contract to the prior year. It's based on the actual hours that the guards are there. So we don't have a total dollar amount, just a rate. But for information purposes, the security guards cost us in the neighborhood of $500,000 a year.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Sheena?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate for the community, anybody who's watching, guards in our district are not armed with firearms, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Jason?
And there is a security guard at every school?
Yes, and at the district admin office. If they
And
do
is
not
it
have
during-
substitutes, we basically will move the DAO guard, who's the supervisor, to those locations. And there are some times that we do not have coverage, in which case the Raptor systems are controlled by the building secretaries.
And that's all during hours that children are in the schools, correct?
Yes, not in the afternoon activities, but for the school day itself.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pitts. If there's no more questions, are we good to move this forward?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And now we have a presentation for facilities capital projects.
Good morning, everyone, and I'm going to ask the Zoom master if we could have this PowerPoint on the screen, which we have. So next slide, please. Okay, we're going to have basically two topics we're going to cover here. The first is capital projects over the next 4 years and various projections that we've put together. And I happen to have a picture here of the DAO roof. It's not the most thrilling picture, but it demonstrates a roof, which I know we spent time speaking about during the April 25th, maybe 24th Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting. So that's one of our many roofs, and this is one that was identified as needing replacement in the near future, and you'll see it in the forecast. So moving to the next slide, if we could. There is a couple things I want to address, particularly on the facilities side of this, the facilities capital projects, and it also does apply to bus replacements, which is the second half of this presentation. Everything that we're presenting here today is a projection, and there's some things that limit how things will actually line up long term. Specifically, we are working with the information and data that we currently have available, but a lot of things that are subject to change are factors outside of our control, like inflation and supply chains and cost of materials and labor costs, which have been somewhat unpredictable over the past couple of years and very difficult to predict moving forward. The other thing that I always point out when we're talking about projects, particularly on the facility side, and particularly when we're talking about projects 2, 3, 4 years down the line, a project does not get approved until the school board votes to approve the actual contract for construction. So there's 3 major projects that are happening this summer of 2025. They've already been approved by the school board, or they're about to be approved by the school board. So because this is a forecast and a forward-looking document, we're going to look and describe projections moving forward in the upcoming years. Next slide, please. So this gives a breakdown of the forecasted cost per year, and you can see pretty high spike in one of the fiscal years that would line up for summer of 2029. Now, again, this being a projection, this being a forecast, that could change. But what I want to identify here is when you see on the 26-27 fiscal year, which is basically projects that we get done in the summer of 2026. When we list a dollar amount there, in this instance, it's 5.25 million. There's actual specific projects, or in this case, a project that is incorporated into that dollar amount. It's not just a random allocation or some set amount that we just project or escalate over the years. It is actually tied back to specific project or projects. Specifically on the next slide, again, pointing out that summer of 2026, we already know and anticipate that Ballard-Kinwood Middle School roof replacement phase 2 will take place in 2026. I did not list roof replacement phase 1 because it's already scheduled under contract for summer of 2025, and the board already had approved that at a prior meeting. So these are all forward-looking projects and amounts. So moving to the next slide, there'll be the 27-28 year, which is basically the summer of 2027. We do have multiple chillers at Penn Valley. So earlier today, we talked about another chiller, and this would be chiller number 2. And at some point, chiller number 3 at Penn Valley will come up on the list. District Administration Building, the lovely picture that everyone saw at the beginning, that was part of a conversation at the roof assessment at the Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting on April 25th. So that's the correct date. We had talked about the condition of that roof and where it fits in terms of the next set of roof projects. And also here at Rock Hill Road, 5565 Rock Hill Road, which is Operations and Technologies home base, the asphalt is scheduled for replacement. That's specifically the parking lot. We're not in a situation where there's sinkholes or any Volkswagens have been swallowed or anything of that nature in the parking lot. However, it is really overdue for that asphalt to be replaced. It's well beyond its useful life. So that would take care of that summer. And moving on to the next slide, and now the lists, well, actually the list on this one is very straightforward. Based on the roof assessment on April 25th, that's where the Lower Merion High School roof project would appear in the timeline and the projection. Next slide, please. You go to the next, thank you very much. There are 4 sheets of projects here, varying in cost from asphalt at Kinwood Elementary, Penn Wynn with a chiller. You'll notice that there's a pretty consistent theme here of chillers, boilers, asphalt, windows, facades. Going to the next slide, we have the second page, which I'm not going to read every line item. If we could go to the third page, that's where Harriton's roof project appears. That is, again, tied back to that roof assessment done on April 25th. And if we could go to the fourth slide for this projection. Okay, that is Mass. Let me go kind of bottom to top here. Masson Ford Road is the transportation bus depot. That, again, that asphalt needs to be replaced in summer of 2029. There's a lot of wear and tear on that asphalt with our bus fleet rolling over it on a daily basis. The project listed above it, Lower Merion High School artificial turf replacement. We're talking specifically about the existing turf field inside of the existing 8-lane track, inside of the existing stadium bleachers currently on Arnold Field in support of Lower Merion High School. We originally switched from grass to artificial turf in the summer of 2006. Those turf surfaces usually have a lifespan of about 10 to 12 years. We were able to take the first carpet, the first surface, if you will, from 2006, replace that one in 2017. And we're hoping to get a 12-year lifespan out of the turf that is out there now. We don't expect, and the lifespan of those systems will be able to go much beyond that. So that's where that comes back. That's going to be something that we've known since 2006 would have to be budgeted and anticipated on a 10, 12-year cycle for the life of that field. All right, if we can go to the next slide, which will be the last year of the projections. Pardon me, more asphalt, more boilers, some auditorium seating, types of things that we're looking at long term. Next page, please. We have boilers and chillers. I will also highlight with Harriton, that would be the artificial turf field that currently exists within the 6-lane track and the stadium bleachers that exist at Harriton. Again, similar life history on that turf that was originally installed in 2006. We replaced the turf in 2018, and then we're talking about it for 2032. So there's that 12-year interval. And then the third and final sheet, I'm sorry if you go to the third, thank you. That is just the remaining projects, and it gets to that total of 5.675 million that you saw on the initial bar chart. So that captures what we're projecting for facilities. Again, this is subject to change. This is very much a living document. We update it frequently, particularly when budgets are being reviewed and in the budget season, if you will. And I'd like to go to the next slide. And at this point, I want to talk about a couple projects that we are aware of, and they were not included in the prior pages because they're still under investigation, and we're still performing various assessments and developing the various recommendations. Specifically with the 6 playground upgrades, I did notice in the chat comments that one of the members of the public was very appreciative of the agreement that the board approved on April 28th between us, the school district, and Heckendorn Shiles, HSA, the architectural firm that's currently doing the district-wide playground assessment. There is a substantial amount of data collection, information, and just background that Heckendorn Shiles is collecting as we speak. They started on April 29th and have been working feverishly for the past 2 or 3 weeks. They've been extremely proactive in getting things started, but we need to give them the time to assemble all of this data, and we'll be getting a full report from them in August. So that information, that report is going to be a great way to define what we have for playground upgrades in this forecast. At this point, discussing that in more detail would be, to some extent, putting the cart in front of the horse. I think every indication is that Heckendorn Shiles is going to do a phenomenal job on that. But again, that won't be ready for a facilities meeting until August. There was some discussion about replacing the running track and the grass field between Kinwood and Bow-Kinwood. I went back and looked at our notes, and in January of 2025, we talked about where that was headed. We've actually put the engineering firm on hold. We've only spent a portion of the money on that project, on that report, because the feasibility is much heavier of a lift than I think we originally anticipated it, and we didn't want to get into a abandoned design type of situation with professional fees. Harriton currently has temporary field lighting systems, so they're be able to utilize that for their athletics. Permanent stadium lights has been discussed, although there's nothing imminent. and also Arnold Field lights, which would require construction of an additional Arnold turf field. I know that it's just a matter of getting that settlement signed by the various parties, but all the various parties have come to an agreement in principle, and there's no imminent plans to start any construction over there on Arnold Field, with the exception of doing a turf replacement. That's just a normal life cycle item. So again, as stated there, we're continuing our investigation, and we need to get a full assessment before we move these into any charts or graphs or PowerPoint slides. If I could go to the next slide, please. We now have our bus fleet. This is now the second portion of this morning's presentation.
Jim, if I could just stop you here, I don't mean to
Yes.
take over. Ms. Schaffmeister, do you want to ask questions on the first portion of this? Because we're going to move to it's up to you. I don't, there's a lot of information there, and then we're going to go into buses.
Yeah, I was actually considering the same.
Okay.
Yeah, let's start ask questions on the capital projects, because I'm kind of confused. I thought with our we were farther along on the Bala Kinwood fields than I thought we'd had the engineers come in to do an assessment, and
They only got 25% into it. I know, when we went back and looked, this was something that has been discussed, and let's get my notes. On August 19th, the board approved $25,000 for Chester Valley Engineers, who's the engineer of record for us that does a lot of our work. And then on September 16th, the board approved another $11,500 to add to that scope, to add to that report, if you will, to look specifically at the track. So you are correct. The board did approve back in late summer, early fall, $36,500 of services. Now, those are established on a time and material. They bill us as we go along with a not to exceed cap. We have only spent to date, out of the $36,500 approved, we've only spent $8,750 of that amount. That $8,750 was basically just the survey work that we have the results of, and we have a full topographic survey. Back in January 23rd, we did give an update to the Facilities and Purchasing Committee and explain some of the logistical challenges, one of which being the fact that an 800-meter track would extend into both Bryn Mawr Avenue and Manayunk Road. And we did propose to the committee, and the committee agreed that report was being put on hold. So there hasn't been any additional expenditures, and there hasn't been any additional movement towards the report, because again, I remember specifically saying that we didn't want to incur a ban of design costs, and that we'd better just to put this on the shelf.
okay, because I mean it's a field that serves but two schools, and it's in really poor shape. That's and also the community. I'm kind of surprised
And we're putting it on hold, Mr. Lil. When
Yeah.
did we say we were putting, like, my understanding was that there was a lot of interest in doing this from the community and from the committee, and that we were talking about doing alternatively sized tracks because that's what's there, and that just having something that doesn't turn into a mud pit was a pretty high priority. And frankly, personally, from my perspective, now is the time. This meeting is where we put our priorities into the long term. And if it's not going to be there and it's kind of on permanent hold, like, how would it ever happen? Like, I don't understand where the disconnect happened.
I'm referring back to what was discussed on January 23rd, 2025.
Okay, well, then I would like to express my interest, at least in continuing further on this project and actually doing the work that would be required to put it into this capital projection.
So what additional work needs to be done in order to move this, to put it into the capital plan? Because I think all of us believe, and I think that there's a strong interest in making sure that we have everything that needs to be done to put it on the capital plan.
There's additional layout work. We have some engineering that has to be done, reviewing it with the township from a permitting and zoning standpoint. One of the benefits of the way that this is established is it is a living document. So just because it has appeared on this as not yet included doesn't mean it will never happen. It's not included in the dollar amounts listed to date. But if I guess I would defer to Dr. Rinaldi if this is
Yeah,
something.
so Jim, thanks. I appreciate it. So it sounds like the money was approved and encumbered for the services to be done, so we figure out where we are. So if we could just reset, and Jim, I'll ask you to do all that, and if the board is okay, we could reset and move forward with that, as we sit here. I apologize, I was not here in January, so I don't know what the discussion was at that meeting. I just do caution you that, you look at the rest of the presentation and it says, artificial turf field, $1 million. This would probably, I'm guessing, and Jim could help me out here, maybe not, would be a lot more than that because you're talking about it, the infrastructure and the drainage and all of that stuff. So, but I am, if the
It
board
was ballparked for us at about $1 million.
Oh, really? Okay, great. So I suggest that we kind of reset and with the board's permission, go ahead and spend the rest of that money to get the surveys and the engineering information, and we'll come back and make a recommendation.
Great.
And to your point,
Remove our hold then.
Yeah, remove
our whole.
and to your point, Dr. Rinaldi, and also for your benefit, we were able to, and we did this internally. Like when we have the resources to do something in-house, we're not going to burn the professional fees, if you will. So very simple and very helpful benchmark. We reached out to Upper Darby School District, who has recently done renovations of a lot of their fields, and they recently did a very similar project at a middle school with a grass field inside the oval of a 6-lane track, and their cost did come in between $1 million and $1.5 million.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
All right. So presented in January.
So I don't know that we lost much with this 3 months because we wouldn't have been able to put it on a plan for next year anyway with the, but that's all up to you. But if we could remove the hold, as Ms. Kaler says, and go forward with that, Jim, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay. Guess I don't see any questions from community unless I'm missing anything. Yeah. So if you'd like to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I did see two comments.
There is one. Sorry, Jim. There's one comment pertaining to this. The other one came in about the playground. So yes.
Does the person who made the comment prefer to ask their comment in person, or not in person? Like his person is in.
The first one is Amanda Cobert, and then the second one is Xander O'Neill.
Okay. Do you want to read them or
Sure, I can.
Okay.
The first person, Amanda Cobert from Wynwood. Sorry. Good morning. I was thrilled to hear the school board approved HSA Architects proposal for the playground renovation assessment. Please include funding the renovation for the 25-26 school year. It's critical that all of our elementary age children have the ability to play with their friends on the playground and not isolate those that aren't able to utilize our current playgrounds. And then Xander O'Neill, she doesn't have where she's from. Do the roof replacement projects include the possibility of solar panels? It is possible that doing so would open up grant opportunities for the projects, lead to utility savings. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. Appreciate those comments. And I know that when the playground assessments come back, we'll be looking at all angles and whatever could be done for next school year and fit into the funding will be looked at as much as possible. Is that a correct way to say that?
Yeah, I think so. And like Mr. Little says, this is a living document. So if some things move from one year to the next, or you all want to jump them 3 years or whatever it may be, you let us know and we'll recommend the things that we have to. And, we'll work together to make things happen.
Appreciate that. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
And solar, have we ever looked into solar before?
There was a program, Solar for Schools, that did come up about a year ago. Regrettably, that had a need-based component, a district wealth component, if you will, which we don't have that. Other districts would rank higher on that than us in terms of need base. I've also been keeping an eye on it, and I certainly don't want to make any political commentary, but some of the federal funding questions right now, it's really been um, kind of a wait and see, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, alternative energy is kind of under attack right now. So if without getting too political. Yeah, yes, I agree. So yeah, I would love to have us, yeah, thank you for keeping an eye on that. And I'm sure once, if anything fits up, we can fit it
Yeah,
in.
maybe as we're budgeting out those individual projects, we can just do a quick loop through again and see what grant funding is available or what the efficiency is on them. I know because solar panels, sometimes if you're in a super, super sunny place, they're great. If your angle to the building is not ideal, it's not. Sometimes the maintenance on them, the cost of that in terms of labor, negates the savings that you'd have.
Right.
And unfortunately, they're really not as efficient as I personally would love them to be right now. The amount of conversion to physical energy. I'm slightly nerdy on this and have deep dived a lot on this sort of stuff. So unless we want to like look into putting maybe a windmill on top of Black Rock Middle School since it's up on the hill there, that might
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lil. I know you're like, don't give me this. But yes,
There's a lot of rock at Black Rock Middle, so sorry, I just had a little PTSD. I apologize.
Trust me, I was there with you for all those fun meetings as we were building Black Rock Middle School. I remember what a lift it was. So yes, I think the long and short is that we can keep looking at grant funding both at the federal and the state level as those projects roll along, but it's not exactly a promising potential. Is that a fair assessment?
Agreed.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Are we good to move on to the next section? I think busing was up next.
Thank you, Ms. Schaffmeister. Very good feedback, much appreciated. And I'm going to go through and discuss the replacement of the school bus plan. This is information that Mr. Vilsons has provided along with the bus mechanics and his staff there. I know that Mr. Vilsons has been anxiously awaiting for this portion of the presentation. He told me that he's going to grade me. He has even a rubric together that he's going to put together a final score for me here. So I'm going to do my best. Moving on to the next slide. Again, because we're into conceptual plans and long-term projections, we do have very similar to the facilities projects, to the building projects, pardon me, 5-year allocations of future bus purchases. These are not anything that's currently on order. There are some buses that are on order and we're waiting delivery. These are projections of purchases that we anticipate to bring to the school board in November or December of 2025, later this year. Again, in 2026, 2027, you can see that's a recurring event on that column on the left-hand side. The number of buses that are purchased and even the sizes of the buses, we do a pretty deep dive in the next couple slides, which will show that this is not, again, not just random numbers. It actually is tied back to the current age and needs of the fleet. And then if you look at the third column, we're basically setting up a cycle here. And again, some of this is supply chain and production line driven, which we have limited control. If we can get approval from the school board in November or December of 2025, we're hoping to get those buses to roll in and actually take delivery August or September the following year, maybe a 8-9 month lead time on that. Again, they're limited on what we could do in terms of the supply chains. Some deliveries of buses have come in faster than others. Ideally, we'd love to have those buses in June or July and have them ready for the first day of school, but we'll take them when we can get them because we do have to keep the fleet's age and condition appropriate and updated. So if we can move to the next slide, we're going to break some things down and get into some real details here. And I'm going to apologize because you're basically going to see this same slide 5 or 6 times. The only thing that's going to change is the year, and also the number of buses. If you look at the upper left-hand corner of this slide, what we're reflecting here is the school board approved a series of buses, but 4 of them, the number of buses on January 23rd, 2023, and we placed them on order immediately. 4 of those buses didn't arrive until 19 months after the board approved it. So those buses rolled in. We purchased them in January of 2023. You go 19 months out for the delivery, and again, there were some factors that weighed into that or led to that. We didn't have those buses roll in until like July or August of 2025. We're hoping that that doesn't happen again. We're hoping again that the bus deliveries can get somewhere around 9 months. We have two gasoline-driven buses, and mostly that's our 30-passenger smaller buses. Has the fuel code of G for gasoline. Those are currently on order, and we're hoping to get those on or before June 30th. So that's the new buses there on the lower left-hand side. What we do with the age of our fleet is we take the fleet, we place every bus into a different bucket. And if you look at what we have in terms of this bar chart, as of June 30th, we will have 6 buses in the fleet. That's that light green bar that are basically anywhere between anywhere between brand new, a day old, or a year old. That's that 0 to 1 category. Then you can see over the next couple of years that actually in the 1 to 2 buses that are a year to 2 years old, we're expecting to have 8 buses in that bucket because 4 of them came in so late. That's what shifted the bar, if you will. And then you can see basically what you see now on the 8, 10, 19, 3. Those are the buses that were procured in prior years. They're on the road, they're in service, they're doing the job. And then we have a very high bar there of 31. That was 7 years ago when we took delivery of a large number of buses. And then you can see that in prior years, the number of buses was basically we purchased between maybe 16, 17 buses per year. What happens when you get to the 9, 10, 11, 12 years out there, that's where we have to start talking about and thinking about when are we going to replace that bus. Now, a bus, we're comfortable keeping it on the road 10, 11, 12 years. Once the bus is on the road 12, 13, 14 years, then you can see we're kind of in a red zone there with the three bars to the far right. It's not impossible to operate a bus that's 12 or 13 years old. We will be doing that in 1 or 2 of these scenarios. But the basic one guideline is to watch the fleet age. Now, mileage, we do pretty well on mileage. These buses get over 100,000 miles put on them. But something to keep in mind is that's a lot of stop-start driving. A school bus, by its nature, goes from bus stop to bus stop to bus stop. So it's stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. And you don't get those highway miles, if you will, that are going to roll up the odometer. It's really what comes down to the age of the bus, because as they start to hit that 12, 13, 14th birthday, you're having a harder time getting parts. You're putting more maintenance into them. And one of the most challenging things with the fleet is corrosion and all the wear and tear that we get driving around through the rock salt, through the rain. Sometimes we have buses that mechanically are great. They run like a top, but you start to get frame and other structural rust, and unfortunately forces us to take the bus out of service after 10, 11 years of great service. Something to keep in mind, and you'll see when we start to get towards this next rule of thumb. The rule of thumb is to replace 10% of your fleet every year in a perfect world, if you will. It's not a mandate or law. But if we currently own 135 buses, which we do, and you go by that 10% rule, all of those bars in the bar chart should be somewhere around 13, 14 buses. They're not, but we can start to move towards that target, if you will. So let's go to the next slide. So back in December of 2024, the school board did approve 11 diesel 72-passenger buses. That's everything that you see there on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you can see what that does with the fleet. Some of those older buses that were out there in the 10, 11, 12 years old, those are going to get traded in, and 11 buses are going to come in on the left-hand side. So that light blue reflects buses that we expect to receive hopefully August, September of 2025. And then what we're doing in every one of these slides is we're taking the fiscal year-end date in this situation, June 30th, 2026, and we're taking a snapshot, and I have charts and graphs with each bus of what we anticipate is going to be in the fleet and what's going to have been replaced. So you're going to start seeing that those buses on the right-hand side that are brown, and one of them we're going to keep into its 12th year, which we planned for in terms of maintenance and upkeep. But As new buses are coming into the fleet, older buses are getting traded in, taken out of service. Next slide, please. So now we got to put on, get into our time machine and look forward into the future. We anticipate and we plan to come to the school board in either November or December of 2025, 6-7 months from now. And we are going to ask for 3 gas buses and 11 diesel buses to be ordered to replace 11 72-passenger, a 30-passenger, and a 21-passenger bus. Given that it will take 9 months for these buses to arrive, they won't show up until August or September of 2026. And then we incorporate that delivery and retirement, if you will, into this chart, which is a snapshot of what our fleet will look like in end of June 2027. Again, we want to do this and we want to take these snapshots at fixed iterations, and the end of fiscal year is a very appropriate way to do that. Next slide, please. And it's going to look exactly, well, not exactly, but it's going to start to look very repetitive. We're going to go a year and a half forward in our time machine, talk about buses that we would ask the board to order and approve in December and November. The types of buses that will start to age out will be 11 72-passenger and 3 30-passenger. What I want to point out on this chart, start looking to the right and start kind of pivoting on that 31 number that's in there between the 9 to 10. We need to be prepared for that portion of our fleet, 25% of the fleet roughly, that's going to age out somewhere around 2029, 2030, 2031. So next slide, please. So that 31 drops down to 30. We expect to take and get approval for 15 buses. And again, at this point, some of our wheelchair-equipped buses, the wheelchair lift-equipped buses, we anticipate will be aging out. So we factor that into the equations. Next slide, please. Now, if you'll notice that big 30 cohort that was trying to jumping off the page, that's now dropped down to 15 because we're asking to get 16 buses orders placed. And again, we're doing it not just purely based on age. We also have to look at the type of bus. The 72-passenger is our common bus. That's the one that we own the most of. What we do also have to make sure we're properly equipped with are the wheelchair lift equipped buses, and also some of the smaller passenger buses are also very useful. But again, the 72-passenger is the most typical vehicle in our fleet. The next slide, please. 2031, we are asking, and now you'll notice that our bus orders are going to start hovering around that 14, 15, 16 buses per year. And now we start to have a very level ordering strategy. Again, we don't want to over order and take perfectly good buses off of the road. If we under order, again, that's not a very technical term, but we don't want to have to play catch up and then find ourselves in the market for 30 buses in any one future year. So the next slide is going to break the monotony a little bit, and it's actually a different graphic. What we present here is the future projection of our compressed natural gas fleet. Now, we've had net CNG buses since the 1990s, and we were one of the early adopters, kind of cutting edge with going to compressed natural gas buses. We're now in a situation where no one manufactures them. That's been the case for the past 2-3 years. And just being able to keep a CNG fleet on the road, we have the infrastructure for it. We have the expertise on how to do it. And we have done very well with CNG buses over the past 30 years. No one is making them. No one is manufacturing them. So we can't buy them. So regrettably, as we replace 72-passenger buses, 5 years ago, we could go out and purchase compressed natural gas buses. We're going out and asking for quotes and bids on CNG buses, and we're coming back with product not available. And that's a part of the manufacturing in the bus world. So we wanted to start looking at it. Again, this is a projection. I'm not going to say that I can't predict the exact day that the last CNG bus will leave the fleet or what bus number it will be, although we're probably pretty close. Today, Out of our 135 buses, 53 of them are natural gas, perform very well. 52 of them are diesel, 30 of them are gasoline. As we continue and move forward and purchase buses, we're not going to be able to purchase CNG buses. So diesel buses at the moment, and again, this is something that we're keeping an eye on. There's various options like propane and hydrogen and things of that nature that are still very much in their infancy. We anticipate that we will be operating CNG buses sometime until the 2032, 2033 school year, but you can start to see that brown line and the decay, if you will, of those numbers because of just where the market is and what's commercially available. And then the next and final slide, we take the first half of our presentation and take all 5 years of those facilities capital projects, run that as a total. You can see that bus replacements are also added in there. And again, each of those dollar amounts is tied to specific buses and specific sizes, even specific engine types that would total to just under 16 million. And then when you merge the two together, the facilities capital project projection, along with it or added to the bus replacement, the fleet refresh that we mapped out, $52,470,000. And thank you for your patience looking at the same table. I know those numbers may have appeared repetitive, but there is a method to the madness, if you will.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe, for that presentation on the bus part. Does the board have any questions?
I do, but I have a bunch. So if anybody else wants to go first, I am happy
I
to.
just I had a quick question. I was just curious, with regard to the diesel versus gas, why one as opposed to the other? And does it make sense to be consistent with all of them? Or is it better to have this split like we have?
Mr. Vilsons, if you get your microphone there, and that's Mr. Herman, that's a great question because there's actually some talk about gasoline buses that will have enough horsepower, enough engine capacity to handle the 70 passenger. So, as that market appears, but I mean, as of today, in order to handle a 72 passenger bus and the vehicle load and the weight, the engines that are commercially available are going to run from diesel. Although all this, please kick in. It sounds like they're in a couple of years, maybe not immediately. There's gasoline buses that might be able to generate that horsepower and handle that vehicle load. Is that correct?
Good morning. Yes, Jim, you are correct. It's a Cummins engine that's been in that kind of production phase for multiple years now. It's been delayed a couple times. It's supposed to be currently we can't even get a gasoline bus in 72 passenger transit type of bus like we use. It's only diesel is available option. But down the road, sometimes in the next year or so, there will be gasoline buses. And like Jim said, this is not set in stone. If we see that the gasoline buses are available and pricing is equal, we may do it. But we also have to think about fueling those buses because our gasoline tank is smaller than a diesel tank. So we wouldn't be able to fuel as many buses as we can fuel with a diesel pump. So we'll have to be some kind of balance between it all.
So the large buses are only diesel. Are the small buses only gasoline, or you can get the small buses in diesel too?
Small buses, the ones that we use, they are based on Chevy or Ford chassis, like vans. We do get them gasoline. They're available in diesel, but according to our mechanics, gasoline is well, first of all, gasoline price is less expensive, but it's also maintaining engine is less expensive because diesel over years with regulations, it has DEF, regeneration, and all that stuff on to keep it clean. And that all that costs significant money. So that's why the gasoline bus for 30 passengers is better. Also, if we would need to fuel a bus somewhere on the road, it's a little bit easier to get a gasoline than diesel.
Perfect.
And Mr.
The only other question.
I'm sorry, just to finish that question. That's an excellent question because this again is a chart as a forecast. I can tell you with high certainty that the CNG line is going to decrease. We don't anticipate that market's going to come back and people are going to start manufacturing that. Mr. Vilson has brought to my attention the gasoline buses moving into the higher size vehicles. So is it possible that that blue line could come up and the red diesel line drop down? Very much so, but we have to see where the market is a year from now, 2 years from now. Regrettably, for lack of a better term, we're into a wait and see to see where they are with the gasoline and then the maintainability and things of that nature. But thank you for the question.
And then the only other question is and this comes up in the community, is outsourcing this versus keeping it in-house. Is that because of reliability as well as the cost? It would be significantly more expensive to outsource this to a third party to handle our busing and our staffing as opposed to keeping it internally.
So there's a lot of reasons, Mr. Herman and the rest of the people who were wondering this. Yeah, the cost, we'd have to go out for an RFP to really hone down on a cost. I come from a district that outsourced some of its buses, and our individuals, our bus drivers that we employ, that the district employs themselves, have much more care and love for the district and the kids than some people who may be outsourced and just doing it because they're assigned this area. So no disrespect to outsourced individuals, but our people who are our people are a much better resource. Not to mention, again, we'd have to go out for a full RFP and make a commitment to that avenue. So those are some of the reasons.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Dr. Anelli, you haven't been here for my usual pitch, but now that we're having a bus discussion, I'm going to do my thing.
No, you can't do the thing.
I can't do the thing?
No, I'm kidding.
It's my favorite thing.
I miss
Lower
it.
Merion is always hiring bus drivers. We are a really great place to work. We have an incentive. We just negotiated last year a higher rate for our bus drivers, and there is a sign-on bonus of, I believe, $4,000. We are always hiring. We have a training program, so if you want to get a CDL with an S certification, you can call it. I believe it's lmsd/jobs, lmsd.org/jobs.
/bus.
I'll get it right next time, Aldous. But yes, I am always plugging for Aldous. He is also like an incredibly beloved human, and you would love to work for him. He's a really good boss to have. So if you're watching this and you're at all interested in having a good job and doing good service for your community, I urge you to check out Driving a Bus for Lower Merion.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Shannon.
I'm going to record that and then we'll put it on the public radio or something. Jason, were you finished or did you have other, because I had questions too.
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Oh, Kimberly, you had some?
Kimberly?
Yeah, I just had one question, just out of curiosity. Are we considering, even though I know it's not on this report, going to eventually go with clean school buses? Electric vehicles, are we going to go in that direction? And if we are considering it, when are we considering it? And what is the differential in cost for the electric vehicles?
I'll tell you, Kimberly, from my experience, and again, not being here very long, but in my last district, we discussed it quite a bit. The infrastructure alone is the difficult part, and the load on the townships and things like that. So we weren't even, again, we talked about it for a while. We weren't even at the point of discussing the infrastructure because it was so costly. So to really hone down on what would be a more efficient cost is one conversation. But how efficient it would be for the load of the township and the electricity and the infrastructure and the cost of the infrastructure is another conversation. So there's a lot to your question there, and I don't mean to push it off, but it's really difficult to answer.
I understand that. I'm just thinking about in terms of the pollution that's caused, the health concerns for both the children and the drivers.
Yep.
But especially the drivers. We don't normally kind of talk about those risks involved with driving those vehicles.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And that's why the conversation, continues to evolve, and we are definitely keeping an eye on it. We've had discussions since I've been here, in the month that I've been here, and we'll continue to make sure we keep an eye on it.
Thank you.
Just to piggyback on that, Aldous, have you been able to actually get in and see about purchasing electric school buses? Because I know you and I talk about this more often than you might like to. But I know that was the hiccup last time, was that we couldn't even get electric buses if we wanted them. Has that changed in the last year or so?
we could possibly get them, but they are about twice the price of a diesel bus. So if diesel bus is around $220,000, electric bus comes as 440,000 price tag, based on the specifications. There are some other concerns that, like, if I would have to advise, I would say we should probably wait, because I've been monitoring New York State, which made a mandate to make buses electric, also Maine, and they have had a lot of problems. Maine's bought a Lion bus, which went bankrupt. So now they have buses they can't repair or sustain or support. In New York State, their estimate is that approximately 20% buses are down every day because either of a bus problems or charger problems, which we really can't afford because we don't have ability to have 20% buses down at any given time. We would disrupt our services. And on diesel buses, just for comparison, it's 1 to 2% is down rate. So it's a little bit tricky at this time for our ability. Like, we would have to have a lot more buses to do that.
Could we consider something like attempting to switch our smaller buses, our 21 and 30 passenger buses, to electric, or specifically our buses that have lifts or accommodations for our special needs students? Would that be feasible, or is that not feasible because you'd still need to pay for the charging infrastructure? And
you still would pay for charging infrastructure, but those are also buses that go way out of district to specialized schools. So the range is not that great especially on the smaller vehicles, and in inclement weather and everything. What we do if we have special needs bus run out of power, if it's a diesel bus, we can send a mechanic out and fuel it up. CNG bus, same thing. We have ability to fuel up CNG bus. Electric bus is dead on the road. There's no heat, no nothing at that.
Yeah, that could be catastrophic. So I guess we'll just keep it and keep checking in every year at this meeting, and you'll give us.
I monitor industry, and we have brought a couple electric buses here to test them around on our roads, because our roads have difficult turning places and we up and down hills. So we're gonna keep an eye on it, and it would be sometimes down the road maybe decided. It's also no longer clear that electric will be the one that will be the major part of the clean energy, and that's also concerned me, because CNG buses actually are very clean buses, very clean. They are they're not zero emissions at a bus, but they are overall probably less than electric if you calculate an emission need to produce electricity. So it's there could be other technologies down the road like hydrogen or anything, and I'm now like a little bit worried because now district had invested in CNG, and we have 2 fueling stations, and buses are no longer made. In going forward, if we invest heavily in electric, and that becomes, we invest millions and millions of dollars in infrastructure and becomes unavailable, then we lost that money too. So I think there's a lot of risk and a lot of unknown in it, and it's still in infancy.
Well, I will for once speak for the board and for the community as one, and that we really appreciate you doing the legwork to try and get us the most environmentally and person-friendly fleet as soon as that's feasible, and trust that you have a lot of expertise and that you're keeping your finger on the pulse of that topic. Kimberly, did you have any more, or can I jump in?
You may have the floor.
Thank you. I'm looking at my notes. I think most of these are answered already. Never mind. You guys asked all my good questions. Thank you. We're assuming the fleet's going to stay pretty much the same size at this point, and we won't have to buy more buses.
At this point, yeah, we don't have where to park more buses, actually.
Well, Mr.
Oh
Wilson,
my God, la.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Wilson, for bringing that back up. That's not a sore subject. Now, Ms. Kalish, I was originally hired here in 2005 to construct bus locations. So Here we are 20 years later. So one thing I would point out is when we anticipated the healthy start time change, I think 2, maybe 3 years prior to that, the bus fleet had gone from 125 to 135. We did that by delaying some of the trade-in and some of the buses, but we kind of saw that out on the horizon and had recently, and I want to say maybe 4 years ago, we've increased it from 125 to 135. As Mr. Vilson's stated, there is the limitations on where we can park them, and I think for the near future, we think that 135 is the equilibrium point.
Great. And we're decently staffed on those 135 because I know that's the other half of the equation.
Oldest?
Doing significantly better. We're not fully staffed, but we're doing a lot better than we used to do before. And we're trying to catch up and get better every day.
That makes
But
me very
you
happy.
should continue to give the plug at any opportunity that you can.
Yes,
for hiring
please.
much appreciated.
You know what, Oldest, if you show up for a meeting, I'll shill for you. How about that? All right. Thank you so much. That's all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, board. I have a few questions myself. Mine are more so about, I'm looking at the CNG stuff, and I know it's cleaner, but I'm also, Aldous, you mentioned we have 2 compressors, and I know we have to do maintenance on them, and also have to replace them every so often, and that is costly itself. When do we hit that marginal value between the two where it's not efficient to keep the CNG buses because we have to do too much upkeep on the compressors?
That's a very difficult question because most of the upkeep of the stations has been done by operations department because I don't really have expertise in that. So as long as there's no major repairs, I think we can keep going with there is a monthly inspections. There is a certain work that needs to be done. Station goes down, but I don't believe there is at this point we just not so long ago the compressors were upgraded. There was a pretty significant money invested to have a better pressure in the system. I think we can, like my uneducated guess, we can last until we have a last CNG bus gone, unless there is some major repair comes up.
Okay, thanks. You answered what I was wondering, if there would be any time we would say that we're going to pull them out before projected.
Ms. Schaffmeister, I'm glad you brought that point up because I just looked in the logs here. It looks like the newest compressed natural gas buses that we took delivery of, looks like we were able to purchase them in late 2021. The board approved them December 20th, 2021. We took delivery in August of 2022. So we have buses out there right now that are CNG buses that are 3 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, just in terms of the investment in those buses themselves, we really do want to get another 7, 8 years out of them. So again, that's just one cohort. It looks like the majority of our buses actually, again, I'm looking at the CNG side, July of 2020. So again, buses right now, they're 5 years old. They have a good another 5 years of service left in them, if not more, slightly more.
No,
Mr. and I have talked about different scenarios as the number of CNG buses starts to drop, and maybe it drops below that 27, 25 buses. Maybe we start shifting one of the compressor stations over to a different fuel type, whether that be gasoline, diesel, hydrogen. Again, until we know what the long-term solution is in terms of the best fuel long-term, best investment there, I think we're going to be phasing out our fueling capacity as the bus fleet, as the CNG cohort starts to drop off. And that's something that we have about a year or two to try to sort through those variables.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate your further clarification on that. And actually on that, like more of like a strategy side of the things, do you ever keep certain buses that are always doing the long hauls so that you can get more longevity out of them? Because you mentioned that the stop start, like as we know, even for our own cars, that is more wear and tear on our vehicles than freeway driving. And so I wondered if there's ever any strategies like that due to increase the longevity of certain vehicles in the fleet.
Yes, we do. Jim, did you want to go? Or?
No, it's you. All you.
We do look at the mileages. first of all, CNG buses, that just like with electric, they have a limitation of the distance, and we don't really have a ability to fuel them, so they don't go on a sports or field trips. It would be diesel buses. So we try to use them equally, send them out on the sports trips. We also have to have a spare buses sitting that are, when they get a higher mileage, we may make it a spare bus as versus the primary buses, because we have 6 bays and we always have a bus in the bay for preventative maintenance. We have buses out in the body shop. We have buses out in repair shops. So we try to balance out this, that if bus is getting higher in mileage, we may take a bus that's maybe not going to get there and use it to increase the mileage. But CNGs, we are limited. The gasoline buses do a lot of mileage just by the nature of what they doing. They're going out of district a lot.
Okay, I appreciate that. I have no more questions. Was there any thing from the community? I'm
No,
not
there's
seeing.
not.
There is none. Okay.
No.
Okay. And then in that case, I think we've reached the end of this meeting. I appreciate all your hard work on Jim and everybody who put that supported you in putting that together, unless that was all yours. And so that brings us to the end of today's meeting. I appreciate everybody who attended. And our next meeting will be on June 11th, again 9:30 on Thursdays by Zoom. And tomorrow, if anybody's interested, is our finance meeting is at 9 a.m. And I think some of us are going to be at that tomorrow. So hopefully some other people would like to join us as well. And then I say thank you, everybody who's was here today for the meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.